Hi everyone, I'm Songyan from University of Edinburgh and the UK Center for Earth Observation. Thank you for this chance to allow me to introduce about the machine learning applications in climate science and ecology, particularly in ecosystem carbon sequestration. So we probably all know that climate change is quite dangerous and threatening, and the land ecosystem, they play quite a significant role in the global carbon cycle. It absorbs nearly 1/3 of human released CO2 each year. But the question is, how do we quantify the responses of ecosystem to the climate change and human activities, such as ecosystem management and air pollution? But the very first question is, how do we quantify, estimate such ecosystem land sequestration correctly? So currently, people use in situ covariance measurements, remote Earth observation, and process-based vegetation models. But the problem is they have quite difference in the interannual variability and even the trend. So the question is, what factors affect the estimation of carbon fixation or sequestration? So we proposed a unified flux initiative or framework. The previous studies, they use quite different machine learning algorithms, different satellites, and different realized meteorology. But we don't know which one is the best. So we examine all of them and get a unified ensemble to generate global carbon, water, and energy fluxes. And this U-flux framework achieved pretty good performance. It explains 90% of the entire level flux variability. And more importantly, it reproduces the flux environmental responses pretty well. For example, like the carbon sequestration in terms of GPP to the incoming light in terms of PPFD across different types of ecosystems. But we have some bad performance in shrublands, evergreen broadleaf forests, and some savannas. And this is probably because we don't have enough data. We just have 2 or 3 towers in this ecosystem, and that's probably the reason limiting the performance of current study. And also the U-flux framework on the right-hand side is pretty good in producing or preserving the energy basin ratio, which is really important for the ecology as well. And on the local scale, we want to provide some information or guidance for the landowners or farmers on how to protect their lands, how to manage their activities. For example, like the livestock grazing. So we examined 3 satellites, the Sentinel-2 and the Landsat 7 and 8 in northwest, southwest England. And we can see, in general, the 3 satellites, they achieve quite similar magnitude of carbon sequestration. But the Sentinel-2, it has better performance in southwest England in capturing the surface details. And on the right-hand side, we can see there are 3 individual towers, and the orange lines of the U-flux estimates are in agreement with the blue lines of eddy covariance measurements. But the eddy covariance tower always has gaps, and when we apply the gap filling method, it results in some quite huge difference. And and thereby we proposed a couple of gap filling techniques, but it's kind of another story. And more importantly, we examine every pixel across the globe to find out which regions we definitely need more towers. They are in the khaki regions, and especially in the South America, Southeast Asia, where this tropical region, they play a huge role in the global carbon cycles, but we don't have enough towers. And this is partly because the eddy covariance is really expensive. So therefore, we have some spin-out company to provide low-cost eddy covariance for these regions. So the next step is to estimate the land ecosystem responses to the air pollution. There are 2 types of air pollution have impacts on the ecosystem response, ecosystem carbon sequestration. The first one is the aerosols. They increase diffuse light, which is pretty good for photosynthesis. And the second one is ozone, which damages the leaves. It has negative impacts. But what's the negative effect of these 2 kinds of air pollutants? Comparing to the aerosol, ozone is quite difficult to monitor from the satellites, and it's a secondary pollutant. The formation depends on the ratio of its precursors of volatile organic compounds VOCs and to the nitrous oxide NOx. So it's quite complicated. So here we use the first we use the site level explainable machine learning to estimate such information for the aerosols, the top, and the ozone in the middle, and the net effect at the bottom. And it also gives us a partial dependence of carbon sequestration to these air pollutants. And in general, the air pollution has negative impact on that, and the aerosol has pretty weak positive impact. But the ozone impacts heavily depends on its formation pathway, which is the ratio of VOCs to NOx. Okay. The next problem is we don't have enough surface spatial ozone estimates or the ozone data. So therefore, we propose learning surface ozone and its parent model, learning air pollutants from satellite observation LAPSO. So these LAPSO and LAPSO frameworks. So these are based on deep forest model algorithm, and we validate this model in China, in Europe, and in the US. On the right-hand side, this the right lines of in situ measurements, and the blue lines are the LAPSO estimates. We can say before, during, and after the pandemic, they are in a pretty good agreement, and we also examine the performance of these models in Europe and US for particulate matters and ozone, and they all have pretty good performance. And therefore, we generate the 10-year satellite-based ozone data sets for public use and freely accessible. And this data set just came out this year. So yeah, happy to really wish to contribute to the community, which this data set can be helpful to your guys' studies. And the take-home message that the UFlux and LAPSO framework is pretty good. And the lack of eddy covariant towers is probably the major issue in the community. And currently, we are doing the high resolution, 100 meters and 10 meters for the UK, and to estimate the order carbon and energy fluxes. And we are generating the transcontinental ecosystem responses to air pollution as well. And we have the carbon sequestration in terms of GPP, but the next question is where will this GPP go? Whether it goes to the woods or to the leaf or re-emitted to the atmosphere or just go to the soil. So currently I'm working in Edinburgh with this bunch of people using a Darley Carnum Bayesian model data fusion framework to try to answer this question. So thank you. Any questions, comments?
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Thank you. I found that you provide us a very high R-square value, which means that your model is fit well. But do you find any overfitting problems in your method?
This is quite interesting. Thank you. It's a good question. Because for the eddy covariance and this field, we don't have enough data. So the problem is we are facing an underfitting issue in most cases. And we also checked some ecosystem types that you said probably they may have some overfitting issue. But however, when we compare the other metrics such as the water use efficiency, the light use efficiency, the Bovin ratio, they all generate pretty good performance. So we think, and we also try different kinds of machine learning data splitting methods. So after all this comprehensive examination, we think it's not an overfitting issue. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Sorry, this is can you explain a bit more how the harmonization is done? And secondly, is there any plan to operationalize this workflow as new data coming, there will be new harmonized, there will be updated harmonized data?
Do you mean harmonized data? Sorry.
In the new flux framework where you integrate different flux power measurements?
Okay, I guess sorry, I didn't hear you clearly, sorry. But I guess, do you mean how do I interconnect the different kinds of flux types, water and...
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, yes, in many previous studies, they just separately upscale these fluxes, like the FluxCom or FluxSat, or they study published in 2020 by a Japanese group. And they the issue there, they don't have enough, they have pretty poor water use efficiency and pretty poor Bowen ratio and energy balance ratio. So the way we interconnected, we used our prior knowledge to constrain this model. So the constraint knowledge here is the ranges of different ecosystems, water use, light use, and Bowen ratio and energy balance. Yeah, we use such information to constrain the model to get probably better